it fucking hurt me to my core, because then I couldn't participate in the pod, and I watched Sharknado for no reason, and I had such good stuff. Like, I mean, I was actually like writing comedy about this for you guys. I was like, oh man, Sharknado really put me in a great mood, because it made me realize how good my life is now, because watching Sharknado is literally the worst thing that's happened to me in a long time. Yeah, it made me mad.
Want to ring the bell?
I'm taking it back. I'm taking them all back.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
I'm a loner, Daddy. Rebel. I am the walrus.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to John Hates Movies. This is the movie review podcast where my friends get me to stop playing Pokemon for 5 minutes and watch some films. This week, we have with us Chris Arsenault.
Hi, this is Chris.
We also have Eric Largent.
Hey, that's me.
James Barrup.
You know what you are? You are a dirty son of a bitch!
And
Okay.
joining us for the very first time
Who are you saying
is...
that to?
I don't know, just the room.
But at least you watched the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're a dirty son of a...
Wow, wow, wow. All right, and joining us for the very first time is Mr. Colin McMillan.
I'm just here to have a good time.
That's right.
So
Guys,
great to be here, guys.
So
It's
excited. I'm a big
super.
fan of the show. Big fan.
Yeah? Have you listened to an episode?
Well, not yet, but it's been on my to-do list. It's on my bucket list.
It's good of Colin to start off with a lie.
Yeah.
I just want to make things as easy as possible for you guys on your last episode.
There you go.
All right.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay. The movie that we're reviewing this week is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The third in a trilogy, starring Clint Eastwood. The other entries are, The Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More?
That's correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
All of them about the nameless man, a.k.a. Blondie. The movie stars Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef, Eli Wallach, and was created by Sergio Leone.
I think it's Leone.
Yeah.
Leone.
Okay. He's making
Leone.
a big tomato sauce.
That's a spicy meatball.
Hey,
Here we go. It's me, Sergio. Netflix gives it 4 stars. That's 4 total stars. Not even...
Which
It's not
is really
enough.
good for Netflix.
That's really good for Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the description is, while the Civil War rages between the Union and the Confederacy, 3 men comb the American Southwest in search of 200,000 in stolen gold. That is probably the best Netflix synopsis I have ever read.
Yeah, it's surprisingly
Yeah.
accurate for
Yep.
a Netflix description. Like that kind of really does nail it all. And I watched this movie originally something like 12 years ago, and I had completely forgotten that this is like half a Western and half a Civil War movie. My brain,
Yeah.
the Civil War elements of this movie had completely dropped out of my brain.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I was thinking the same thing. I was having the big battle right before they blow up the bridge and whatnot. I completely forgot about that.
Yep.
Like, for me, it was like them in the desolate town, then them in the standoff in the cemetery. That's all I remember.
Right. For me, it's like cutting the rope, and then it's just Eli Wallach running around a graveyard. Like,
Yeah.
which, by the way, is actually I know that scene drags on forever, but it's actually one of my favorite scenes in any movie ever.
Oh, no, that seems great.
Oh.
because of
Absolutely
the
great.
music and
Yeah.
and Eli Wallach just died like 2 weeks ago, which is kind of tragic.
Yeah,
I know.
that's true.
It's really his movie,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. Eli Wallach is fantastic.
Really, and he has probably at least twice the screen time of either the good or the bad.
Yeah. You could be like washing your dishes to that. There could be a scene of somebody washing their dishes to that music, and it would be like the most epic thing put on
I
film.
think it would be pretty compelling.
The music is amazing. Like,
so did you wash your dishes to that music, James?
Yeah, is that what you're getting at?
Is this another movie you didn't watch?
No.
To be fair, this scene is long enough that you could probably get a load done and not miss much.
Well, who wants to officially start us off here? Who wants to give their view on this?
Me.
All right, Colin, you go first.
All right, yeah.
I kind of already mentioned some of it, but like this is actually one of my favorite movies of all time. I was so excited that we were going to do it. But there's so much of this movie that I had forgotten. Practically all of it. I remembered the music. It's true. I mean, I remembered the music really, really vividly. Partially thanks to Metallica because they used that music to open their like symphonic concert, which sort of just tells you how iconic this movie was originally.
They've used that to open like all their concerts. I saw them a lot later, and they were still using that music.
Yeah, I think that when they stumbled on that, they were like, "Well, that's working. Let's just keep that."
Yep.
That's more badass than we are.
I know. But, I mean, it's kind of true. Like, Metallica will never write something that good, even if you like Metallica. That's, like, Ennio Morricone did the music for this movie. And not only is it amazing when you watch it, but it's also, well, it's been lifted by Metallica. And, of course, the main theme has been referenced in so much of pop culture in like the last
like every one of Tarantino's films.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's used a lot of Ennio Morricone's music.
This is actually the first time that I've ever actually heard the real thing.
It's different than you think,
like,
isn't it?
Yeah, because I've always heard like, instrumentals. I didn't realize that it literally is just a guy going ah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep. Yodeling and whistling and gunshots.
It's awesome.
Gunshots are part of the music. It's so weird. And this is a movie that's kind of a relic of a different time in filmmaking. And I realized that for a couple reasons. One, I was watching it and I was like, I can't believe this is a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's got that old, it's not proper old Hollywood, but it's got that old pacing. That was indicative of the 60s and 70s.
Especially for Westerns.
Yes, Westerns were kind of universally slow in their pacing, which is weird because there are movies primarily about people shooting each other, and yet they move so slowly. And
they have to give so much background to explain why they're shooting each other.
Yeah, which is
the good ones
weird.
too.
Because and this movie has scenes like this where there's 5 minutes of nobody speaking and like either just crossing a field or looking at a building or something. And this scene goes on for 5 to 7 minutes of silence, and all you hear is boots crunching on the ground, and then the guy just gets shot. And that's how the movie opens, and then Tucco busts out of a bar eating a turkey leg like he's running from Renaissance Festival security, and you get that first awesome freeze frame on the ugly, and oh shit, I had another one, I lost one, but I don't know, I just love this movie. I could probably talk about it forever. Also, big ups to Tucco for shooting somebody out of a bathtub.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I don't even know if that's possible in real life.
I was wondering that. I thought he hid it in the bubbles. Like, he must not have had it in the water. He must have just been like, I'll hide this.
This is my grandfather's gun.
This
is my grandfather's gun.
You think
I hid it for him.
You think that if my gun works underwater, you know nothing about Tucco. Okay, somebody else go for a while. I just will never shut up.
Yeah.
I'll talk for a bit. I like to talk. All three of these movies, I probably haven't watched in maybe a decade or so. Like I rewatched Fistful of Dollars, I think, for the first time about 3 years ago. But other than that, like I said, The Good and Bad and the Ugly, I was definitely probably in like middle school or something when I last watched it. So I've been rewatching it over the past couple of days because I can't manage to have solid block of 3 hours in which I can dedicate to watching a movie anymore.
Yeah.
And it was funny because, once again, that was like Colin was saying, there are gaps of this movie I just blocked out completely. But rewatching it's nice because it does feel like you're watching the movie almost for the first time again. I guess
Yeah,
that's
I felt
that's a
that
big
way.
plus of it.
Mhm.
But good lord, the music in this movie is just so fucking phenomenal that it's like it really was exciting to watch this movie again with this music. Like I was getting all like geared up for it, it's like yeah, it's gonna shoot that motherfucker. I think my favorite part of the movie though is when they're in the abandoned busted up abandoned town.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
And
yes.
for several reasons. First off, the bad guy's like, they're coming for me, so he sends his mooks out to like friggin' shoot him, and he bails. And then the first scene of one of the bad guys, he's got his rifle and he's like got 15 seconds where he's like, trained on Tucco and fires and misses, and Tucco whips around and shoots him between the eyes.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
how shitty as a bad guy, how stormtrooper do you have to be?
I know.
But they're having this like little gun battle. I say, but they're casually walking through this town, just whipping around, pot shotting every one of the bad guys, first chance first sight, and in the midst of being barraged by artillery shells. I always love that. It's such a great scene, you know? And once again, so many of the scenes in this movie, like so much of the scene, like scenery and everything just feels so good. It doesn't feel like, that's too, that's too off, or this just feels too unnatural for like the setting or whatever. It's good. It feels good. And I don't know. This has always been one of those, like, I can't say it's one of my favorite movies, not because it's not a good movie, because it's a fantastic movie, but you really got to be patient to rewatch it at this point.
Yeah, patience is key.
Yeah, it is a fantastic movie.
In my excitement, I was trying to talk to people about this movie, and I realized that now there are many people, not to be all like, oh, these kids, but like, there are many people that don't know what this movie is, and they've never heard of it. And
Wow.
It's true.
That doesn't surprise me.
I was totally surprised by that, because I go to work and I'm like, you guess what I watched last night? I watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and one of my buddies at work is like, what's that? And I was like,
when you're expecting
like,
them to turn around and say, "Oh, I love that movie."
I know. I'm like, you are male. You should know this.
This is part of your man card, sir.
Didn't you get one issue? Didn't you get a box set issued to you when you turned 18?
Yeah.
Actually, I should be very, very careful, because this is the first time I've ever seen this movie.
But you knew,
Yeah, but
you knew what it was.
Before, right?
Yeah, no, I knew what I knew what it was. I have issues with spaghetti westerns.
Oh,
because a lot of them are hokey.
Oh. No, it's primarily a pacing thing. Also, I'm a huge John Wayne fan, and it's such a departure from the old John Ford stuff that I think the first time I saw one, I didn't quite know what I was watching, so I just kind of wrote them all off.
Oh, they look a lot different. Spaghetti westerns have a completely different look than American westerns.
I think I like the look and the feel of the spaghetti westerns over a lot of the American westerns, honestly, because the American westerns were a little bit too Hollywood of the era, so they're a little too clean, you know?
Yeah.
And that always
some of them are.
Well, not all, but they're a little bit too clean, like in the character, in the dialogue, in the settings. Everything was a little bit too nice and a little bit too. I don't want to say "gee golly whiz" because that's not really appropriate, but I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you know, the good and the bad, the ugly isn't like what was it? What was the western? Underwood?
Deadwood.
Deadwood. You
Yeah.
know, they're not cursing every 5 minutes, you know,
Yeah.
but, you know, the
Love
dialogue feels a little bit more natural to the characters than a lot
Yeah.
of the dialogue in some of the American westerns.
Just, yeah.
And I'm a huge John Wayne fan. You know, I like his,
Mhm.
I like his westerns. Granted, my favorite John Wayne is, actually not a western, it's Hatari.
Really?
Yeah.
Zatari?
I've loved it. Hatari.
Oh.
I've loved it since I was a kid, man.
That's not. Wait, it's the Conqueror where he plays Genghis Khan, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's funny you say that the lines sound more natural though, because what they would do is they would hire these Italian guys, like carpenters and stuff, and they'd have these conversations with them, which they would tape, and it'd be like, "Hey man, what's your name?" And he'd be like, "Oh man, my name's Antonio," or whatever. "What do you do for work?" or "Where do you live?" or whatever. And then they would use that as a scene in the movie and just dub over the dialogue.
Yep.
So
Yeah, there was a lot of dubbing in this.
So in a way, it's almost like watching an old kung fu action theater movie.
Right. Yeah, you have that element too.
But for some reason, in the spaghetti western, this works for me very well, and I can't even tell you why. Maybe it's some weird nostalgia thing from when I was watching kung fu movies a lot. I don't know.
But like, you know, about Chris saying how like Hollywood is all too clean, like everybody in this movie looked sweaty as shit.
Yes.
And like you could tell that they were like filming,
like when the big dude was beating the shit out of Tucco.
Yeah,
sweat is dripping off of him.
Like everybody was sweaty and dirty as fuck. Even Clint Eastwood, you know, who was the cleanest motherfucker in the West, was still dirty.
Right.
You know, but like Angel Eyes looked like he had been like riding the dust trails for like 3 months.
Yeah.
Definitely adds to the realism or the believability of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least, they actually look like they're out there in the sun, at least, which is pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think, though, the other side about spaghetti westerns, like they don't take themselves nearly as seriously. Part of that is another reason why they lend themselves to being more believable. You know, they have the more natural rhythm of, you know, I guess real life. And I'm not saying this necessarily specifically for the good, bad, and the ugly, as much as, you know, you have a lot of spaghetti westerns that were quite honestly comedies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, if anyone's seen My Name is Trinity?
Nope.
Oh.
No.
That's what you gotta know.
There are a couple movies. My Name is Trinity, and I believe the second one is Trinity is Still My Name. They're comedy spaghetti westerns. You ever get a chance, you should watch them.
Oh, you should definitely watch Paint Your Wagon, then. That's a good one.
Yeah, Paint Your Wagon is a comedy western.
But that's also a musical, isn't it?
It's also a musical.
Yes, it
Not
is.
one of mine favorites. But and Django was a spaghetti western.
You talking about the?
Yeah, I know the original Django.
The original
was.
Django.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I said the original Django.
Yeah, okay. Well, you didn't say, you said Django, and then I was like, what? But then you.
Well, I didn't
clarified.
say Django Unchained, did I?
No, you didn't.
There
Okay.
you go.
Well,
Burn.
So, what about you, Eric? I know that I know you had to do a little bit of a refresher for you, but what did you think?
Well, it's a lot of the things that you guys have said is like right on for me. The production, like, and I've said it before, the way a movie looks has a lot to do with how much I like it or not. And this movie, like, had this and the other two before it had like a really, I mean, they had that spaghetti western look, and I actually kind of prefer that. Like, those, it seems like those are brighter, and it actually seems like the landscape is like more desolate than in the American westerns. I kind of like that too. The ending where you know, they both the two of them are you know, go to the graveyard and the music is playing, and I don't know, it's just it's really one of those like scenes that it's one of those all-time movie scenes.
The ending, like the actual ending of the ending, is
where he shoots him down.
Is so
that was great.
It is great, and what really makes it for me is I couldn't remember that when I was rewatching it. until it happened. I was like, doesn't he come back? But so there's this really long, uncomfortable part where you think that Blondie is just left Tucco to hang himself in the.
Right.
It's funny. And Eli Wallach is acting his face off and just like yelling until his throat's sore, and it goes on for so long.
Yeah.
It's so brutal.
Well, I mean, the thing that bothered me about that originally, like before he shoots him down, it's like, why? So if he's going to leave him just hanging there, why isn't he taking the money? Like, what's going on here? What's the point of this? But then he shoots him down.
Some sort of weird, like, Judas thing. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The point of it, in a practical sense, is that Tucco is dangerous, and you do want to put some distance between him, because he did want to kill Blondie.
Oh, through most
Completely.
of the movie, over and over again.
Most of the movie, yeah.
I'll sleep better knowing my good friend is watching over me.
So,
but in the process of me reading some refreshers to catch up, I was reading some tidbits about the production, and there were apparently a lot of like incidents on the set where people could have died, like for real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One scene where Eli Wallach was going to be hanged after a pistol fired, and the horse underneath him was supposed to bolt. The rope around his neck was severed, but the horse was frightened too well. It galloped for about a mile with Wallach still mounted, with his hands bound behind his back.
I heard about that.
Yeah,
I heard that story out of Wallach's mouth on the radio, and it's nuts.
Another one, Wallach's life was threatened during a scene where he and Mario Briga, who are chained together, jump out of a moving train. The jumping part went as planned, but Wallach's life was endangered when his character attempts to sever the chain binding him to the now dead henchman. He places the body on the railroad tracks, waiting for the train to roll over them. Wallach, presumably the entire crew, were not aware that the heavy iron strips jutted 1 foot out of every car box. If he had stood up from his prone position at the wrong time, the jutting steps would have decapitated him.
Holy shit!
Whoa!
Like he was sitting right next to a real train that was really moving and was really going over top of him.
Good God!
That is
apparently
crazy.
Eli Wallach also drank from a bottle of acid that was left next to his soda bottle between takes.
How the hell did that happen? Well, I'll just leave my acid.
I think someone's
right
just
here.
trying to kill Eli Wallach.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
Where's that gaffer's acid?
Right. No kidding.
Yeah.
Holy moly, that's nuts.
Okay.
Wow.
Before I forget, the scene where he's like trying to get the chain broken in a modern day movie, like I was thinking this, why not just break the dead guy's hand?
I
Slide off the.
yeah. Earlier.
Yeah, you could just stomp on his hand until you can get the thing off.
Earlier in that scene, I was like, what does he do? Does he cut off the hand? I thought that's what he did, or he or shoot it off or something. I mean,
yeah.
I think that's probably a testament to just how accepting of violence we've gotten.
Well, I mean, if this was made by Tarantino, that's exactly what would happen. But honestly, the train scene was really cool when the train went over him and picked up the dead body.
Yeah, the train scene. If this is Tarantino, I wouldn't have watched it. I mean, there's a lot of things that they could have done there. I'm glad that they did it the way that they did it.
Yeah.
But you're right.
It would have been easier to
just smash the shit out of the
but
dude's
you
hand.
don't really want to see that. The train thing's much more exciting anyway, and less disgusting.
Yeah. So apparently production on this movie was pretty trying for the actors. Sorry, Clint Eastwood was on like really bad terms with Sergio Leone by the end of it, because Sergio Leone just like constantly kept trying to reshoot scenes, and he would like do the take for the 60th time and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Eastwood also said, and I guess for good reason, that he was really concerned with the script because he was concerned he'd be upstaged by Eli Wallach, which he ended up being.
He definitely was. I mean, there's no question about it.
For screen time,
totally
he was, but
and for an enjoyable character, but you can't beat Clint Eastwood's cool.
Exactly.
Oh no, yeah, he's super cool.
What do people remember? Clint Eastwood's cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
And that's the difference,
Clint Eastwood, I always feel like, when he was in these films, he played a really awesome, badass character. And I was just thinking, like, what other really badass, actor, I'm like, the only one that really comes to mind is Steve McQueen, except that Steve McQueen was badass cool, and he just played Steve McQueen in all his movies.
Right.
Well, the man with no name is sort of like James Bond in the Old West, and I was thinking about that because, this movie is called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but it really maybe ought to be called, like, the smartest guy, the bad, and the main character who is actually also pretty smart.
I was going to say the reasonable guy, the malevolent guy, and the guy that gets fucked over through 99%
the
of
opportunist.
The opportunist. There you go.
That's what I mean. Tuco is such an interesting character because I feel like you don't really get characters as dynamic as him in movies.
Oh no!
I mean, like before or since. It's rare when you have a character with that much depth, and I didn't remember that about Tuco at all. He is by far the most developed character, and he. You get a real idea of the kind of person he is, such that why Blondie would want to get as far away from him as possible once they split the money, because he knows that Tuco's going to shoot him in the back if he gets a chance.
Yep.
Right, but I was going to say you also have the understanding that Blondie recognizes that Tuco is also very, very well. Saying he's flawed is a little bit too obvious, but that because of the scene with Tuco's brother, that Blondie witnesses, his brother's like, this is bad, you're a disgrace, and Tuco's like, I did what I had to do, you did what you had to do, you were just too much of a chicken to take the hard life, and then he walks out, says, oh, my brother, he loves me, didn't want me to leave, and just bold-faced lies about how great a relationship he has with his family. And it's just, and like I said, he doesn't know that, Blondie knows, but like, it's just so interesting that they developed that character enough that they bothered to give him this opportunity to show that he is deeply and personally bothered by the way that just went.
Yeah. And you get this weird insight into, like, what he does in that scene is he tells Blondie basically what he wishes his life was like.
Right.
And that is...
Right.
That's nuts. Like...
Well, and it gives Blondie the idea that, okay, he's not just, a greedy killer.
Yeah, he's not.
He's more than that. He still don't want to turn your back on him. He's more than that.
Well, this movie's really good about packing on the layers with almost nothing.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it gives you so little, but every little bit that it gives you is just full of gravy.
Right.
Oh, it is.
Because, like, would you really want to see that, like, Tuco's history in flashbacks or something? Because I wouldn't. Like, that would be terrible, They did it. It's just, it's nice in just that little itty-bitty morsel that you get.
Less is more in this case. So, James, you want to go for a little bit?
Yeah, hold on one second. I'm thinking of something.
An absurdist comedy routine, James?
No, I didn't write anything for this one.
They're called Bubble and Squeak.
A little Dadaism?
Oh, okay. I was just... Sorry it took me so long to come up with the guy's name, but if this movie was written by Tim Burton, then it would be flashbacks of Tuco's daddy issues.
Yes! Played by Christopher Lee.
Yep. All right. So I just want to say that before I forgot it. So I did not get any sleep last night, guys, but no, not in a good way. Anyway, I did not see this movie before watching it for this podcast, and
you picked it too.
What's with you, Barrett?
Well, because he had watched the first two.
Yep.
Oh, right.
I watched the first two because they were on Netflix, and I was so worried because I wanted to watch Chinatown. I wanted to see if Chinatown was still on Netflix, and they took it off.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit, I better watch this before they take off all the good classic movies. But yeah, I watched the first two, and so I was like, well, I better watch this one, and I fucking loved it. It's fucking great. It's insanely good, and like there was very few like mechanically wrong with the movie. And that's really saying something, considering that this guy filmed with fucking film in a camera that was run by, like, mechanical parts. Like, he
Hey, you can
couldn't
make that
even
stuff
see
work.
what he filmed
Wait.
that day.
As opposed to their magic
really,
wand,
that's
or what? I
digital.
don't
That's how things
understand.
work.
As opposed to digital film that, like, we have now. That you
No!
you can
Don't even
watch
get
the
like
shit.
that.
Dude,
And
okay,
then-
you can film a scene and then fucking watch it right
Uh-huh.
there. Back then, you had no fucking idea of what
but
you
this
had
is
actually,
exactly
Kubrick
why,
made
as they're
2001: A
saying,
Space Odyssey.
which is still fucking amazing.
But this is what they were getting at before,
It
that
was
Sergio
possible.
Leone, that Sergio Leone was being such a
How did he get the camera into space?
particular about this.
That's a great
He
question.
was doing
Yeah,
like
that's what I
60
wanna
plus
know.
retakes.
Yeah.
That's why they do more than one take. It's not because it wasn't perfect this time. It's so they can get
I know.
various versions of it and pick it in editing.
Here's what I was like. When I came in here, Chris was just watching the bridge scene again. Okay, that bridge blew
Again,
up.
or for the first time?
I was gonna say, yeah,
Like,
again.
no, again. Like, I'm pretty sure that Chris was just like rewatching the end or something. But
Okay.
he had it on the bridge scene. You watch that scene again, there is actual fucking rubble landing like right in front of the camera. If a piece of rubble hit that camera, it would have cracked it and that film would have been unfucking usable. They're not going to get another bridge to blow up.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't
like-
know. They had a
The
lot
bridge
of
is probably
workers.
cheaper than the film and camera.
Probably.
It really probably
Yeah.
is.
No, I mean, what James
Yeah.
is saying makes sense, though. There was a lot of different risks involved in movie making then, and not. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
versus now.
besides the fact
Yeah.
that, like, if they, like, they're filming a lot of Superman, Batman in Detroit, and once it hits the screen, you won't be able to tell it's Detroit because they're gonna lay CG over all of those sets because the sets you see on screen now, they were never filmed there, almost universally, but. Every hill and bush and worn out building in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is actually there, and everything they
Right.
blow
Mhm.
up gets blown up.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
I'm with you on this on that point. I think that speaks a lot for what they were able to do with films in the day.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's a little more impressive than the shit. And I'm not taking away from any of the other shit like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I just don't know how you find a giant baby in space and it doesn't even make the news. Like,
I know.
Yeah.
But
how do they do
How'd
that?
they do?
God, Kubrick was a fucking genius.
watching the first two, like this trilogy is a thematic trilogy where like you'll have the same actors playing the same type of character, but not necessarily the same character.
Yep.
Which is really confusing after watching A Fistful of Dollars. Like, I got really fucking confused watching A Few Dollars More because the main villain from Fistful of Dollars comes back as a completely different fucking person in A Few Dollars More as a villain. So I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Like, yeah, I know it was literally like resurrection, but
we complain about directors these days reusing
Actors,
actors in all their films. At least it's not the same story.
Yeah.
With different characters.
but it's really interesting to see Sergio Leone's storytelling technique grow. Because in A Fistful of Dollars now, okay, when I'm going to talk about this movie, I'm going to compare it to movies that have come later that are much worse. So just be prepared for that. I'm not saying that the much later movies are good. Like, A Fistful of Dollars has to do a lot with, like, there's a fairly complicated plot going in it. And there's a lot of double crossing and fake outs and stuff like that happens. Like in the Pirates of the Caribbean, the second trilogy, the last two of the trilogies. I'm not even talking about the fourth because I didn't even watch that one.
We're not friends anymore.
Wow, I couldn't believe that actually the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean could end so tragically. But then again, I assumed it did. But,
I didn't see it.
but like there was like the second ones, they had a very convoluted plot. Fistful of Dollars had a very convoluted plot. It's like he learned to make the story more simple as he went and to do more with less.
Well, those movies are written by different people.
Oh, I was unaware of that.
Yeah, the screenplay
Way to do your
for
research, James.
My research consisted of watching the movies, which is more than I usually do.
So,
Yeah.
so what Sergio Leone learned about storytelling is stop working with writers that write a bunch of bullshit. I mean,
Clint Eastwood was awesome in all of them, and they all had these turns in them that, okay, the turns are like really impressive, and I didn't see